Good morning, Kingsley community. Pastor Colleen Wehrman here, coming to you with another daily devotion for, let's see what the date is today, October 6th. Is that right? Yep, October 6th, Tuesday. And I am using 40 Days with Jesus, and today's devotional is day 24, called Clean. This comes from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 5, verse 12. While Jesus was in one of the cities, there came a man full of leprosy, and when he saw Jesus, he fell on his face and begged him, "Lord, if you will, you can make me clean." The writers write a little bit about leprosy. Leprosy was a condition with no known cure. It caused lumps and scale-like wounds all over the person's body and could lead to complete degeneration of the skin and twisting of the bones, ultimately deforming its victims. Fingers, toes, ears, and noses would rot away and fall off, making it difficult for a person to breathe and more likely for them to go blind. Those suspected of contracting the disease had to show themselves to the priest, who would evaluate their condition, diagnosing them as clean or unclean. And unclean meant you were counted as good as dead and banished from the city. Having been ripped from their homes, families, and friends, and all other comforts in life, the only hope for relief from them was death. Enter Jesus. News of the preaching healer had been spreading from town to town to the leper colony. Luke says there was a man full of leprosy who approached Jesus, which means, 1, he had the disease for a while, 2, he'd been living in physical and emotional hell, and 3, somehow there remained in him a modicum of hope, enough to violate the law and throw himself at Jesus' feet. Perhaps prior to getting sick, he studied the Torah and he knew its prophecies about the coming Messiah. Isaiah 61:1 says, "The Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted and to proclaim liberty to the captives and the opening of prison to those who are bound." But perhaps his understanding of the prophecy had changed since he had become a captive in his own body. Whatever his story was, something drove him past the law that required him to stay back, past the wall of disbelief that he could ever be restored, past the fear that a preacher would shun him too. "Lord, if you will make me clean." So Jesus stretched out his hand, touched him, and said, "I will, be clean." And immediately the leprosy left him. The best part of the story isn't the healing from Jesus, although that's really cool, and it isn't the faith that the man had. The best part of the story is that Jesus reached out his hand and touched him, because Jesus could have just spoke the words. Instead, he moved in, bent down low, and touched the man who no one had been willing to touch for a very, very long time. He touched him before he was clean. So while the words of healing restored his body, no doubt Jesus' touch restored his soul. So a couple questions. Which part of your soul needs Jesus' healing touch today? Tell him. Ask him to touch a certain part in your heart that is hurting today. What's holding you back from the kind of bold faith the leper had? Is it embarrassment? Is it you're going to be afraid you're going to look at like a Jesus freak? I got my Jesus the World Tour 2019 shirt on that my daughter got me. And this is the really cool part. The World Tour is all, I don't know if you can see it, of Jesus' miracles. So that's my concert tour shirt. Yeah, I'm a Jesus freak. How can you connect with people in your life who aren't part of the in crowd like Jesus did? How can you reach out and touch someone who others find unclean? And that could be the homeless. That could be people with mental illness. That could be, what else could that be? People that don't think that they're in the in crowd. That could be the odd one out. How can you include them this week? Kids, how can you include someone that sits by themselves in the recess area, zone that you guys are in now? Can you include them to just come play? Maybe that's something that you could do. And for some of you at work, there's always that coworker that nobody ever invites anywhere. No one ever thinks to add or include them. How can you include them today? Can you invite them to lunch? Can you invite them to just sit with you at lunch? Can you invite them to coffee afterwards? People are lonely and their hearts are broken, and they need to have someone reach out and touch them in the name of Christ. And we can do that. So I'm hopeful that this was a helpful devotional for you today, and I challenge you to do something to reach out and touch those that are not in the in crowd, the cool crowd. How can you do that today? And I will see you back here tomorrow. Have a good day.